Okay, let's unpack this. Randomized clinical trials, RCTs, you hear them called that a lot. They're absolutely fundamental, really the bedrock for, you know, evidence-based medicine.
Hmm. They tell us what works.
Exactly. What treatments are best. They guide decisions doctors make, patients make globally. But that guidance, it's only reliable if we trust the trials.
And that trust hinges completely on integrity,
Yeah.
right? Rigorous integrity.
Right. So today we're doing a deep dive into a source about the Cairo Consensus Statement on Research Integrity of Randomized Clinical Trials. Sounds a bit formal, but it's actually a huge deal.
It really is. It's the first time you've had this kind of international multi-stakeholder group focusing specifically on, well, keeping clinical trials honest.
Our mission here is to figure out why this was needed now and what it actually means for the medical research you might come across.
And the source makes it pretty clear why. It points out that, well, even though we have tools to check study quality,
Yeah, like checklists and things.
exactly,
Yeah.
those exist. But trials that fundamentally lacked integrity, they were still slipping through, getting published.
Even past peer review.
Even past peer review sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, is supposed to be the gatekeeper. And this wasn't just theoretical. It led to actual retractions, journals issuing expressions of concern.
Which obviously chips away at trust.
Big time. Public trust, clinician trust in the findings. So the need for this consensus really grew out of recognizing those failures, those gaps in the system.
And the process to create it sounds pretty intensive.
Oh, it was massive. They synthesized evidence from, get this, 55 systematic reviews.
Wow.
Yeah, so reviews of lots of other studies. And then they brought together 30 key stakeholders, people from 15 different countries.
And stakeholders isn't just the scientists running the trials, is it?
No, not at all. That's the key thing. It was trialists, sure, and methodologists, the people focused on study design, but also, crucially, patient representatives.
That's important.
Hugely important. Plus, regulators, the folks who approve drugs and treatments, journal editors, the people funding research, the institutions themselves. It was a really broad church.
So that diverse group from all over the world signals that this wasn't just like a small academic worry.
No, it was a global recognition, an urgent sense that we needed a clearer, shared understanding of what integrity actually means in a clinical trial and how to ensure it. A real call to action.
Okay, so that's the why. What about the what? What does the statement actually recommend?
Well, this is where it gets really practical. It lays out best practice recommendations covering the entire life cycle of a trial.
The whole thing, start to finish.
The whole thing. From the very initial design phase, getting ethical approvals sorted, right through actually running the trial, monitoring it, how you report the results, and even handling concerns that might crop up after it's all published.
Can you give an example? Like what specifically does it touch on?
Sure. So for informed consent, when patients agree to participate, it recommends actively getting input from patients or their reps into how that consent process works, not just handing them a
Or
form.
making it more collaborative.
Exactly. Or it gets into ensuring data handling is transparent, pushing for things like open data where possible and appropriate. And it clearly outlines roles for the institutions and journals, too.
Ah, so not just putting all the pressure on the individual researchers.
Right. It talks about embedding a culture of integrity within institutions, how journals should handle allegations, that kind of systemic stuff.
So it's more like a framework for everyone involved, the whole ecosystem.
That's a great way to put it. It's a foundational framework. The idea isn't that it's the final word set in stone. It's meant for organizations, funders, universities, hospitals, journals, you name it, to take this consensus and build their own specific guidance from it.
Tailored to their field or their context.
Precisely. To make it harder for those problematic trials to slip through, and ultimately to protect the research landscape that informs all our health decisions.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway here? The Cairo Consensus seems like a really significant, very necessary step forward.
Definitely. It's providing this much-needed roadmap, making the standards for integrity explicit, visible, enforceable across the globe.
For these trials that are just so vital for patient care. But, as you said, it's a starting point. It needs implementing, building on.
Absolutely. It's step one.
Which leaves us with a thought for you listening in. If medical research becomes more transparent, if these integrity standards are more strictly followed, how might that ultimately change your own understanding and maybe your trust in the health information you see and use every day?